This is another sign of the times, an analysis, and a commentary. As Afghanistan mission ends, misgivings by a United States general. Shortly after the speeches concluded, the flags were folded and the band silenced. The last American general to lead combat operations in Afghanistan offered his candid assessment of the war. "I don't know if I'm pessimistic or optimistic," said Lieutenant General Joseph Anderson, the departing commander, considering the United States military's reduced role next year. "The fact that we are in less places, the fact that there are less of us as a coalition is obviously concerning." In an interview in his office after the lowering of the flag that signaled the official end of the coalition's warfighting mission, General Anderson offered a nuanced take on the final year of America's longest war. "The record casualties of Afghan forces are not sustainable, and neither are their astounding desertion rates," he said. "Political meddling, not intelligence, drives Afghan military missions. The police and the army do not work together." It was a reflection on the mission that was in stark contrast to the unbridled renditions of success offered during the ceremony by commanders, including General Anderson. More than 5,000 members of the Afghan security forces have been killed this year, eclipsing previous years and surpassing the entire coalition death toll since the invasion began in 2001. The deaths mount even as many soldiers and police officers are reluctant to leave their bases, and the deadly attacks have continued into the cold months when fighting typically stops. "It's been a hell of a year," General Anderson said. "Now everyone wants this to be in the rearview mirror, and of course we still don't have the right guys in the right places, and that just causes people to not know what to do." Echoes of the Vietnam War. Logistics remain deeply troubled, leaving boneyards of vehicles needing repair at bases across the country and stymieing efforts to project force into Taliban-controlled areas. A political impasse within the Afghan government has slowed the naming of cabinet ministers, paralyzing much of the government here, including the military and police bureaucracy. Under the new mission, called Operation Resolute Support, the American military will largely advise the Afghan military at the highest levels, though President Obama has authorized the use of combat forces to target leaders of al-Qaeda and the Taliban, who pose a threat to remaining coalition troops, as well as the use of air support to aid troubled Afghan forces. The nature of the war will be starkly different for the 10,800 American soldiers in the country next year. That is 1,000 more than had been planned. While he outlined shortcomings, General Anderson, who has run the day-to-day mission since February, also sounded notes of hope. On the tactical level, Afghan forces could beat the Taliban if properly motivated, he said. The new Afghan president is committed to merit-based appointments. Tolerance for corruption, at least publicly, seems to have dropped. Besides, he noted, America's war here could not go on forever, but even positive assessments seem dampened by reality. The good news is that the Taliban is just as challenged with strategy, leadership, and resources, which causes them to be less effective as well, he said. The challenge will be now who best prepares this winter season, who best sets themselves up for success. Part of that setup will include naming new defense and interior ministers who will oversee the army and the police. But as it stands, both organizations are in limbo. So, in other words, Afghanistan is a big mess, just like Iraq and Syria. Perhaps there are limits to the United States military power, and it's now showing. Casualty rates among Afghan police and soldiers have soared this year, but especially the police. Some Afghan police and government officials complain that the police are left on the front lines while the army remains in bases, protected. But General Anderson offered another explanation. The police were simply less observant of safety procedures. They are trained, but 9 times out of 10 they don't wear their kit or follow proper procedures, he said, referring to body armor and helmets. One of the biggest challenges that many coalition military commanders privately complain about is the political interference that Afghan forces must contend with. On several occasions, those officials said missions have been launched at the behest of powerful Afghan officials to try to stem the spurious missions. General Anderson said the coalition flew surveillance missions to determine whether the claims of military need were genuine. In 1 week, he said, the coalition military spent 140 hours flying over areas allegedly controlled by the Taliban, scanning intersections and hilltops for activity. It found nothing, he said. You're chasing your tail because of somebody telling you to do this, he said. Of course, we wasted assets to confirm or deny, but it's the only way we could stop the phone calls. Still, there is a genuine problem in troubled areas in getting the Afghan forces to go out and pursue the Taliban, rather than clear an area of insurgents and stick around to prevent their return. The more typical response is to clear an area and then leave. And they put on these offensives. It achieves an effect for a very short time, he said. It's a lot of lives for show, in some cases. Soon, a knock sounded on General Anderson's door. His flight out of Afghanistan was ready to go. So yes, Afghanistan is also a big mess. What has America's longest war gotten us? And that should be a very good question to ask. Revelation chapter 8, verse 12. And the 4th angel sounded, and the 3rd part of the sun was smitten, and the 3rd part of the moon, and the 3rd part of the stars, so as the 3rd part of them was darkened, and the day shone not for a 3rd part of it, and the night likewise. 13. And I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, 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 to the inhabitants of the earth, by reason of the other voices of the trumpet of the 3 angels, which are yet to sound. Revelation chapter 16, verse 8. And the 4th angel poured out his vial upon the sun, and power was given unto him to scorch humans with fire. 9. And humans were scorched with great heat, and blasphemed the name of God, which has power over these plagues, and they repented not to give him glory. 10. And the 5th angel poured out his vial upon the seat of the beast, and his kingdom or nation was full of darkness, and they gnawed their tongues for pain. 11. And blasphemed the God of heaven, because of their pains and their sores, and repented not of their deeds. 12. And the 6th angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings and leaders of the east might be prepared. It's time for the spiritual and physical manifestation of the book of Revelation, and all these are more signs.